What was amazing about this project was 40 years ago, almost to the week, I moved to Denver and started my career. And 40 years later, I'm installing the Great Map of Colorado in the Colorado History Center. It is an honor and a privilege I cannot even explain.
What was involved in the making of the Great Map of Colorado was really quite an undertaking. Had ordering in thousands of pounds of material, hundreds of gallons of epoxy resin matrix, mixing exact formulas, 12 different stone formulas for 12 different colors, maintaining the quality control of each one of those so we had a perfect product from start to finish.
We talked about the time that was available in the build schedule, the effort that it took to build that map and then to install it, up against the commitment we had for opening dates. We had compressed everything into a schedule that didn't allow for any mistakes. It was a build schedule that was so tight that the closing of the production on the map and the opening of the first event for the use of that space was about 48 hours. And it was that degree of confidence we had in Stephen and the artist, in the production, and having done the reference work, looking at our construction crew and making sure the floor was prepared, that allowed us to move ahead, but we didn't have a lot of tolerance. Everything had to work right, and it did.
We had then 4 months to do this project. Each panel of the 234 panels had a tolerance of 5 1/1000ths of an inch, 7/16ths of an inch thick, had to be perfectly flat, perfectly square, and every single color that went across one tile to the next had to register perfectly. It was a great challenge, but I have a wonderful crew of people working for me, and I wanted to do this job more than anything. The map is exactly proportionate to the state of Colorado as seen from the distance of about 400 miles out in space.
The idea for the map of Colorado really came into being when we began to see floor plans of the History Colorado Center. Because of the dimensions, it's very similar to the ratio of Colorado. And we realized right away that we had an opportunity to take advantage of that by placing a map inside of the atrium as an orientation for the history and the place and the dreams that people have when they come to Colorado together. My favorite thing about the Great Map in the History Colorado Center atrium is the first time I saw children walk on it. They stepped over the rivers, they stepped over the highways, they stood in the mountains and ran across the plain, and you could see how deeply they engaged with that map. It was really fun to watch it just appear and sort of grow and then disappear for a while and then get a little bigger, and it felt like, you know, just watching a large picture puzzle every day as we'd stand up in the mezzanine and watch the pieces come into place. It was really organic in a way to watch that map grow in our space.
It's a piece of art. It's a wonderful way to set a tone to that whole room. It changes the character of the room. I know how much time, I know how much detail, I know what the intensity of the pressure was that created that. And yet at the same time, I look at it finished and I can see two things. I can see those 30 by 30 inch tiles being prepared and knowing what detail it took. But I can see it as a small integrated part of a huge, beautiful work that helps tell Colorado's story in a way that we can't tell it. Native American people would go along those rivers following the game. And those game trails and migratory trails then became the highways and the railroad. And if you look at the map today, the towns that come and go won't be shown on there. But the major, if you will, transportation arteries are along the rivers. And that's how navigation was done then. And we don't think it's necessary to put all the different town names and highways on there. I think this gives you an idea of the way the state was in its history.
I think there's a lot to see. One of the things that we've really tried to do in this new building is reach out to new audiences, especially family audiences. It's so much more interactive, really putting people in the middle of the story, and instead of telling people what happened and the facts of history and the dates and times, is really putting them in the story and letting them create their own meaning and have their own experiences, and not leaving with a right or wrong answer.
We had a couple of different ways that we could make the map interactive. One of them would be very simply to have our visitors download an app into their cell phones. And navigate the floor that way. When we thought about that idea, it felt like standing in a mall. Everybody's looking at their cell phones. But time machines were unique. People would know instantly that they were in an environment unlike any other.
The use of what we call the time machine is an immersive way, again, of taking the tourist, the viewer, the student, the member, into an incident by locating it geographically. Pushing that machine across the map gives you the awareness of what went on in that location. You have choices that come up. If you come down over a particular spot, 3 or 4 dates will show up. And if you select one of those dates, you have the stories of what occurred in that time period on the map.
I always tell people that you get a different perspective of that map from every place in the building, the higher up you go. So exploring it on the ground with the time machines is magical. But even more magical is being on the 2nd floor or the 3rd floor or the 4th floor and looking down on it and watching people explore. And that's where you really get that sense of vastness of this state and the vastness of that eastern portion, which is brown, in relation to the rest of the state. So it's been a real teaching tool for us, but it's going to be one of those things that I think the people of Colorado will cherish as their own, because there's just nothing like it. You know, it's beautiful, but yet informative at the same time.
I do like that feeling that I have that these stories are embedded in that art.
One of the great challenges is how do you represent the state of Colorado, that when you stand on it, you get the feeling of these majestic mountains and these powerful rivers that flow through.
Our standard of success is not that people know a name or a date or a succession of events. Our standard is, do the families go home and do they keep talking about these events around their dinner table? If they're doing that, then we've done our job.
I hope that people leave understanding that history isn't just created by rich and famous men, that it's our collective individual lives that lead up to this greater shape, which has made our state and made our world.
This to me was the pinnacle of my career. This job for this state, because this is my home, this great state of Colorado.